Salam, I'm Avalon, and today I want to talk about why I converted to Islam and really just my story, my experiences, and yeah, how I ended up here. So I have all my notes on my phone, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at because there's a lot to remember, and I didn't want to leave anything out. So yeah, with that, let's get into it. Okay, so a little background about me. My family is Christian, white Americans, so nothing fancy, not Muslim, not Arab or anything. I get questions about that. No, we're just white Americans. And I grew up in a very, I would say, sheltered and, more traditional Christian home. I was homeschooled until the age of, 10 through, a Christian homeschool group. And, yeah, I decided that I wanted to be a Christian, or, decided when I was 4 years old, and I was baptized by my dad actually in the ocean when I was 10 years old. So obviously Christianity was just always a part of my life, and it was always a big part of my life growing up. But despite being Christian and being very dedicated to it, I never really had hard feelings towards Muslims. I definitely had, I had stereotypes of them in my head, and which are not true, that I know now, and I definitely had views of them that were not accurate, but I didn't dislike Muslims at all, because honestly, as far back as I can remember, people around me were Muslim. I had friends on the swim team, or just people that I would hang out with that were Muslim, so I always respected them, and yeah, I just didn't have any hard feelings towards them. And even back to the first time I started dating anyone, I dated Muslim men, so obviously I didn't have anything against them. It was just kind of well, I don't want to be Muslim. So it wasn't until high school when I realized how many similarities there are between Christianity and Islam. And that really made me start thinking about it differently, because like I said, I didn't have anything against the religion or people before, but that just kind of made me see it differently a little bit. The seeds were sown, So that was just maybe the first step towards Islam for me, even though I didn't realize it. And alhamdulillah, I think that Allah put Islam in my heart a very long time ago without really me even knowing it. Because this is just a funny little anecdote, but I actually used to put hijab on in the mirror in my room. I would lock my room, put hijab on with a random scarf in my closet, and just kind of see how it looked. And yeah, and then I would just I thought nothing of it. It's so funny looking back, because I'm a Muslimah now and I'm hijabi, and it's so weird that I never made that connection that I could be Muslim, or if I wanted to be Muslim, I just never thought anything of it. That was just a thing I did. It's just funny looking back. But yeah, there was definitely a time where I started becoming, there was a transition between, okay, Islam is cool, but it's not for me, to just becoming more and more interested in it. Okay, now we need to fast forward to my last semester of community college when I was 20 years old. So I enrolled in a world religions class last minute. There was a good chance that I wouldn't have even ended up in that class, but I did, and alhamdulillah, it was all for the best. And so it was a world religions class, which means that it went over the biggest 5 world religions. So Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. And this was a huge moment for me, I would say. And it should be said, before I even get into the class, before I started taking the class, I was already really not feeling Christianity anymore. I was very unhappy with the church I was going to. I really didn't fit in there, even though I really tried my best. I would go to youth groups sometimes, and I volunteered with them. I went on, a mission trip with them. I really tried to involve myself in the church and get along with people. And there were some really cool people there, but I just knew I didn't fit in there. And I think I could tell it wasn't just because I didn't fit in. It was also because it was about the faith, So at this point, I had already become disillusioned with Christianity, with the church I was going to in general, and honestly, religion in general. So I hadn't left the church yet, but I wasn't by any means dedicated to it really. But it was really when I took this class that I decided, okay, I'm not Christian anymore. And this was a huge transitionary time in my life. And the main things I learned from that class that changed my views were, first, that Christianity isn't that different than a lot of other religions once I saw them all lined up next to each other like that. And so it's kind of well, what's holding me to Christianity? Just because my parents are, that's not a good enough reason. Another thing was that I just wasn't really interested in learning about Christianity. Like, I didn't get thrilled to learn about it the way I felt like maybe I should if it's my religion. I also realized that I just didn't really understand Christianity, or it's not that I didn't understand it, it's that it didn't make sense to me. Especially the aspect of like the triune God or the Trinity or three gods in one. That's something that I was kind of told as a kid, like, oh, you'll understand it when you're an adult, when you're older. And this is the first time, like in that class, I realized, oh, I'm an adult now, and I still don't understand it. It still makes no sense to me. So after this class, my eyes were really opened, and I realized, first of all, I don't want to be a Christian anymore. I don't want to practice any religion. But on the other hand, I did get really excited to learn about Islam in that class. Every time we would learn about Islam, I was like, I just felt really into it, and I felt excited to come to class. But at that time, I wasn't ready to convert or anything like that. I wasn't even thinking about it, honestly. I just knew I don't want to be a Christian anymore.